power stations in Yemen are especially alarming. The airstrikes reportedly resulted in numerous casualties, including at least 3 people killed and dozens more injured. A United Nations humanitarian air service crew member was also injured when the airport was hit. A high-level delegation by the UN, headed by the World Health Organization Director General, Dr. Tedros, was at the airport when the strikes occurred. The delegation had just concluded discussions on the humanitarian situation in Yemen and on the release of UN and other detained personnel. Today's airstrikes follow around a year of escalatory actions by the Houthis in the Red Sea and the region that threaten civilians, regional stability, and freedom of maritime navigation. The Secretary General emphasizes that international law, including humanitarian law as applicable, must be respected at all times. And he appeals to all to respect and protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. Humanitarian relief personnel also must not be targeted and must be respected and protected at all times. The Secretary General remains deeply concerned about the risk of further escalation in the region and reiterates his call for all parties concerned to cease all military actions and to exercise utmost restraint. He also warns that airstrikes on Red Sea ports and Sanaa airport pose grave risks to humanitarian operations at a time when millions of people are in need of life-saving assistance. Further escalation in the region also continues to undermine the mediation efforts led by Special Envoy Hans Grunberg to reach a negotiated political solution to the conflict in Yemen. The Secretary General renews his call for the immediate and unconditional release of all UN and other personnel arbitrarily detained by the Houthis. And now I also have a statement to read for you on Mozambique. The Secretary General takes note of the announcement of the Constitutional Council of Mozambique regarding the outcome of the general elections held on 9 October 2024. He continues to follow developments closely. The Secretary General is concerned about the post-election violence which has resulted in loss of lives and the destruction of public and private property. He urges all political leaders and relevant national stakeholders to diffuse tensions, including through meaningful dialogue, legal redress, refrain from the use of violence, and redouble efforts to seek a peaceful resolution to the ongoing crisis in a constructive manner, which is essential to the collective future of Mozambicans. Yes, Edie.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. A few follow-up questions. First, do we know or have any details on who the 3 people killed were?
I do not have these details at this point. What I do have is, of course, information about our UN colleagues, and I can report that all of our UN colleagues are now accounted for. Our colleague who was injured is receiving medical treatment. He's in a hospital right now, but everybody else is safe and sound and accounted for.
A couple of other follow-ups. First, what is the status of Mr. Tedros? Are they staying in Sanaa? Are they going to be moved out? Is the UN trying to do anything to get them out quickly?
Yeah, so I spoke to colleagues on the ground about this. So Dr. Tedros is with his delegation, with his team, in Sanaa still. So there will be assessments to be made tomorrow morning. It's nighttime right now in Yemen. So tomorrow they will assess the airport condition and whether Mr. Tedros is able to leave. So.
And my third question, you said it was a high-level UN team. What other UN officials were on? Was the UN Special Envoy, Mr. Grunberg, on? this delegation?
No, it was a WHO delegation. Our resident coordinator was also with them. So it was the UN team in Yemen plus the delegation led by Dr. Tedros. Gabriel.
Thank you, Stephanie. Has the UN, I know it's early on right now, but has the UN expressed their condemnations directly to Israel over this attack?
So right now, what we have is this statement, and I'm sure that contacts at ground level and here will also be made.
And I know you weren't there, but this sounds like it was pretty serious. And that, can you give us an idea on the risk that Mr. Tedros and his team faced? Any more granularity on that?
The information that I have is, as he said himself in a tweet, he and his team, they were at the airport already. They managed to evacuate safely. As you can imagine, in Yemen, they travel in armored vehicles, so they managed to leave the airport and to go to a safe place. And I won't go into any additional details on this.
Thank you.
Yes, Edie.
One other question. I assume that this was a civilian airport, not a military airport.
It's a civilian airport. It's the airport of Sanaa. On our side, this airport, as you can see, is used by the UN Humanitarian Air Service. Colleagues on the ground tell me that through this airport and other airports also in Yemen, they move humanitarian staff around.
And as far as the UN knows, were there any Yemeni Houthi military aircraft or other military equipment at this airport?
I don't have these details. I will not go into these details. Yeah.
One follow-up. Thanks, Stephanie. Has the Secretary General been briefed on this? I know he's not in the United States right now, but...
The Secretary General is continually briefed on developments around the world, in New York, when he's in New York or elsewhere, yes.
But the idea with Mr. Tedros is to get him out and his team out
He
as
was
soon as
scheduled,
possible.
so his visit to Yemen was finished, and so he was leaving the country, so he will proceed when he can to going back to Geneva. Yes.
Another follow-up, Stephanie. In his tweet, Mr. Tedros said that one of the reasons for his visit was to try and negotiate the release of UN staff who were held. Did he have any success in that mission?
I asked that questions to our colleagues on the ground, and so the visit by Dr. Tedros was positive, and of course we continue to call for the release of all the staff that's been detained, UN and others. Thank you very much.